We're not in Arkansas today, Toto.
Nope.
Thought we'd bring you along with us on a little adventure today. Headed down to the river bottoms in my old stomping ground in Illinois. Home of the walnuts, hickories, oaks. Got a few chestnut trees still left that the blight didn't get to. Sycamores running around here and there through the woods.
Beautiful territory.
Thought we'd go explore around for a little bit and share some of this part of the country with you. I don't know if a lot of you may have never seen the walnuts the way that they fall off the trees, but they're everywhere here.
Everywhere. Go rolling on them.
Like good ammunition for somebody if they wanted to throw them at you.
Well, they're hard like that. It'd be like getting hit with a good golf ball.
It's been a few years since we've been back up here. There was one right there. Did you hear the thump?
Mm-hmm. We've debated for a long time about whether the people were with us here as much as we were out in the woods, and maybe we didn't know what we were looking for or who they were yet.
At the time when we were young, running around through here. But we wanted to come back and explore it with a little more educated eyesight and intuition and see if we find anything interesting today. But come on along and let's go.
These old river bottoms were always lively with all kinds of stuff.
We were visiting with Rachel's brother last night, and he brought up something that at the time he had told us, and we just kind of filed it away and forgot all about it.
Couldn't make sense of it enough to,
I don't know that he made sense of it at the time, but it's been several years ago. I think he was 17 at the time.
Just about, And
the blacktop road that leads to this point, he was on his way to see his girlfriend, probably around
after work around 10 o'clock or 10:30.
And as he went down the hill crossing the great big creek, and there's a really thick tree line that runs along that creek bottom. And he was telling me this again last night in conversation. He said, I don't know what it was. It was 8 foot tall, brown and hairy and on 2 feet, and it ran across that road, and that's when he lost control of that car.
He had a little Toyota.
And it flipped it
3 times.
Said it was chasing after a deer. He didn't really get hurt other than a few bruises. The funny thing in that Toyota, the entire top of the Toyota was caved in except for where his head was.
He's 6'6", so he was sort of like a gorilla on a roller skate anyway in the car.
Right. But he said the next day when they came back to get whatever they could salvage out of the vehicle, that deer was laying down that creek ravine half eaten. So half of it was gone, the entire rear quarter of it.
And he didn't make a big issue of it with the law or anything else that came and helped, because what are you going to tell him?
He wasn't drinking. He just got off of work. He was 17 years old on his way to his girlfriend's house when that ran
Country
across the road
It was a good blacktop.
Middle of the night.
So he wasn't too surprised when we started
talking about it and
our experiences, and he pitched in and said, he didn't make an issue of it at the time because he didn't. It was already he landed between 2 trees after flipping that car 3 times.
30-some years ago.
Yeah.
Later in life, he was a over-the-road truck driver, and he said he was coming up Interstate 57 down by Anna, Illinois, and saw what he described to us last night as a dogman type creature that came running through there. And that's not too far geographically from what they call the Big Muddy Monster.
Yeah, it's real close.
Yeah, there's a long history all through southern Illinois of sightings and people hearing sounds, and a lot of documented police reports of different things. And
once we were remembering once there's a old area down by the big river here, and Ken and I had been out fishing. We called it Long Pond, and we could hear what sounded like hounds or something off in the distance, and there were a few rural properties, so we didn't think anything of it because some people have coon hounds and so on. But literally it felt like it was 3 to 5 seconds, and we could hear them right up on where we were at, and everything inside of us said go, and we piled into the vehicle and we got out of there because there's no way that in that distance they could have cleared.
The distance we initially heard them was probably a mile and a half away. You could hear them baying and howling in the distance, and within 10-15 seconds it sounded like they were 50 feet behind us.
And it was literally a big old full moon that night. I'll never forget it. And the wind was weird. It was spooky night. We never went back, and I don't know if it was so much fear as it was just, wow, looky here.
You see what's right in front of me there?
I see. Let's go.
And it's even pinned down.
We've got some mud here, so bear with me. I don't have my boots. Oh, looky here. This is awesome.
What was that?
Right over here. Come on. Old friend, come. Oh, I got the box.
Alright, so we've got an arch there, and it's all pinned down with what looks like Y, or what is that?
Let me see. Let me get a different view. What is it? Help me out, guys.
Is that kind of their own version of an A or a Y or something?
yeah, it feels like it's reversed, like coming out. Hello, old friend here. You know, we used to come out here.
Leaner right there in the tree.
We used to come out pretty often. Ken was out here more than I was, actually.
Now we're talking about
35
years ago
yeah.
or longer.
And when we pulled up, I felt like I heard, "Hello, old friends." And it gave me a start, not a scare, but a start. So whomever resides, I feel they don't forget. Everything inside of me says they don't forget. And recognized, at least Ken.
Now the old county blacktop is about 200 yards to my right, so you'll hear a little traffic once in a while, but this muddy lane that we pulled off onto goes on down into the river.
Hello, old friend. Interesting. I don't know if that's an intentional X or more like an asterisk. This is the path. It's a male. I can feel him. Oh. Okay. I'm just pulling loose leaves that have fallen.
That's half of the foot. Looks like the toes are pointed your direction.
They're coming up this way. It's very square, I would say. Female. Is this female? Yes.
Alright, so yeah, right. Show them the heel.
Okay, let me pull the loose ones that are on top. It's all the way back here. Okay, so here are some toes all the way over to here. Here's the smallest, and it comes straight back, and it's actually going all the way to here. It's a very
20,
long,
24 inches.
It's good. Thank you. You'll hear me communicating with these differently because I feel like they know us and we don't know them quite in the same way. So I am approaching gently. We did hear something more like a squeal over here, so I don't want to startle any young ones or those that might not know us. The message.
Yeah, there were many nights that we would come
right in front.
Sit out here and you would hear different howls and yowls and sounds. At the time we just weren't sure what was making them.
When you're out in the country, you get used to a lot of sound. And you understand that nature is very active, especially at night. Can we approach? I was feeling the need to ask. Yes.
Way up through there, about 60
right
yards in front of me is a structure up there.
Do we have permission to explore? Yes.
X right there.
We know you. They keep saying we know you. We can look. They're saying it's okay. So we don't want to startle anybody. We're not here to disturb.
There's another.
Big.
No, did you hear it? That.
Yeah, I heard one right in front of us and then that again. It's okay. We're not here to hurt you. We know. Okay. The older ones are trying to relay the message to the younger. Or I feel like there's some communication going on, so part of what we're hearing is them communicating with each other. Just to let them know that everything's fine. I wish we had something to bring you. Just yourself.
When we first started the channel, it wasn't very many videos into it. I had posted a Thanksgiving story about when I was deer hunting and had made kind of an off shot on a deer and didn't put it down immediately and chased it through the woods and lost track of it and kept feeling something watching me and kind of pressing behind me as I was going through the woods. And after a long time of trying to track this deer down and couldn't find it. I eventually gave up and thought I would come back the next day because it was already getting dark. And when I made about a 1.5 2-mile hike back up to where the truck was parked, the deer was on the ground right at the back end of the truck, and footprints all around it. Big footprints. So we're, as the crow flies, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles from that point.
They're asking if we'd like to see this up here. They're giving us permission.
Go ahead.
Okay, watch the thorns. We have a lot of thorns.
I'm used to it.
That's why my arms always look rough, just so y'all know, is because I'm not really good at watching for these things and they catch me all the time. Thank you. Right into it. Oh, come on, let me go. There's a lot of elementals in
Well,
these
you walk
woods.
through the thorns. I'm going to walk around them.
Well, that was the first thing I wanted to go to, actually. Here's a little extra here.
Right here.
Thank you.
That did not fall that way out of that tree.
No. Over here, they're pointing out this structure. They use this. The young ones use these vines on the left. It's a little different than what we've had or have seen. And I think it's
Are
because
you pointing up there?
this structure here and the vine that goes up.
Right.
But they're explaining they don't have pine, so they have to use either the trunk or, the vines if it's quick. That's a big one. What's going on over there? Good? Okay. That one's all wrapped around that vine over here. There's a little tiny arch right here. And
Alright, so we've got to go up over this field here and down the slope of that other hill before it opens up down into the river itself. I just wanted to give you kind of a panoramic idea of what all this looks like out here. Alright, you ready for a hike?
you bet.
Alright, we'll pick this up in just a second. So I wanted to bring you to this spot particularly to share a memory from when I was 17 years old and I was out here deer hunting, and these two giant oak trees, one there and one there. But I had came through here And of course, in Illinois, you've got to use a slug gun, archery, or black powder for deer hunting. So I had the shotgun with the slugs in it, and I had hiked out here early. It was still dark when I got here. And right here, I parked my happy little rear end at the base of this great
Gotta be
big oak.
400 plus.
It's probably every bit of
I don't know how old.
250 or 300 years old. Anyway, long story short, I fell asleep. And just as the sun was barely starting to creak up, I could hear crash, 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 and thought a deer was coming through that creek bottom directly in front of me. And it wasn't a deer. It was a Sasquatch about where that old log is laying down there on the other side of the creek bank.
On the bend.
On the bend of that creek. And it came running from the right, and in one stride cleared that 20-foot ravine where the creek is.
Did you feel like you were dreaming, or?
I wasn't sure at the time what I was seeing. Of course, 17 years old, a lot of stuff doesn't register in your mind, right?
Yeah.
I just knew it wasn't a deer, and there's nothing in this part of the country that resembles a bear. There's no black bear here. But up on 2 feet, at least a good 8.5 foot tall. And it, in one stride, one leap, just bounded across that creek ravine. So we have been around them our entire life.
Unknowingly.
You know, for a deer hunter's perspective, this was an excellent spot to sit, because you've got a game trail running off that direction, coming off the high bluff,
And all that below.
and an open field behind us. And then all of that runs into the river down there.
As we were walking back this way, I was telling Ken that someone was commenting, "Now do you remember?" And I didn't feel that they were speaking to me. And he came in, and it was just like the whole remembrance of that hunting trip. I think a lot of what they're trying to do is show and confirm that they've been around. We haven't been active participants for a long time, but they have. This feels like a very old family. I was getting the sense that they've been here and have never had need to be anywhere else, which would make sense. Why leave, or why fix what's not broken?
Right. Yeah, and people probably think in their mind, "Oh, Illinois, that's not a spot for a Bigfoot." Well, yes, it is. They've reported them in this state all the way from the Great Lakes region all the way down to the point down by Cairo and you know, Little Egypt, Mounds, Illinois. And this is the land of giants. We've got the mounds here. We've got Cahokia mounds. They've unearthed skeletons that were 20+ foot long with heads the size of a bushel basket, the skulls.
And it's very old Native American territory. Some of the mounds have been, well, they're protected now, but originally farmers would have them.
Right.
And find out that they were old, you know, ceremonial mounds for great nations of people.
You hear that knock? There was 2 knocks over there. There's another one. But this is the land of giants.
And whatnot.
And everything else.
Everything else.
Well, there's something you don't see every day.
Oh my goodness.
a snake shed hanging up on that limb.
I need to take that. Wow.
That's cool.
That's very cool. As far as what now, there are timber rattlers through this area,
A
but
few,
not a
few.
lot of poisonous snakes.
And this reminded me, of course, this isn't it in particular, but this reminded me, if you see down low on the ground, little red berries, that's ginseng.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for wild ginseng because it's all over the place here.
I wonder if I can take this. Yes, thank you. I asked permission to take this.
The snake skin.
Yes.
Well, let's press on and see what else we can find.
Yeah.
Most people, when they think of Illinois, they think of the wide open prairie and endless mile after mile of corn and soybeans, and that's true. There's plenty of that here, but there's also all of this, and I just wanted you to see how dense all of this is through here. In perfect habitat. You can put a nail in the ground and grow an anvil. Anything will grow here. So it is the perfect habitat for anything to thrive on.
Definitely.
Right now I'm just kind of looking through the woods, looking for anything that looks like an X or an arch or there's something else just popped back there.
Somebody said on it, you'll find what you're looking for. These people feel very docile, very grounded. Is that the word I want? You know, just solid. Of course, we all know individually they're as different as we all are on a personality and
each one has its own unique personality, the way that it behaves, the way that it communicates or tries to communicate. No different than people in that regard. They might all be related and might all have some kind of similar characteristics, but each one is unique unto itself and how it... You hear that tapping?
I know, I heard something like a rumble with it. Nothing ill, just saying I'm here. You're welcome to walk with us. Somebody keeps asking, so I had to finally reply. Very respectful people. Unbelievable.
Another arch over there.
Some kind of structure or something going on, maybe. Do you want to walk up that way, or do you want to come around?
Well, I think we'll pick this up again once we get down to the river.
Yeah, unless something
just really stands out. Well, we have made our way down to the riverbank, and it sure has changed a lot since the last time I was down here.
Definitely.
At one time, there used to be fishing cabins, and there's some remnants of the foundations. They were all up on stilts for the flooding. I was kind of watching the mud down through this ravine here to see if we see any prints through it.
Mm-hmm. Toes. Hey, you'll have to back up to catch it. Right here. You see the toes?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was telling Rachel my memories of back in here. Anytime through the spring, summer, and fall, any of these great big trees, you would come back here and guys would catch the great big flathead catfish in their nets, and they'd nail the head up to the tree and then fillet and clean the fish. So all of these big trees had dozens and dozens of flathead catfish.
Some of the flatheads in the nets would weigh over 100 pounds apiece. They were massive.
I'm 6'2", a little more give or take. Biggest one that I ever had in my hands, and we didn't weigh it, but I was holding it by the gills, and its lip was up over the bridge of my nose, and its tail was past the ground and it started curving up, so it was over 6 foot long. It was like 6'6", 6
was
foot
probably about 75 pounds. 70.
It had to have been over 100 pounds.
I don't know. It was big.
Huge old fish.
Divers would, there's pipelines in places across this river, and divers would go down and work on the pipelines, come straight back up and say, nope, there's fish down there big enough to eat me.
But there's the Wabash River. We're standing on the Illinois side, of course, and across is Indiana.
Yep. Stone's throw. You got a big arm. It's mostly catfish, but there's perch and
there's pretty much
pretty good variety.
Perch, there's bass in there, there's all kinds of stuff in it. And right there where that log's at in the middle of the stream, that's humped up and the channel runs either side of it, and you'd get out there on the boat and use cut bait and catch channel cat that weighed 25, 35 pounds consistently out of that.
They're always a challenge because they'll try to wrap around the
logs.
And, yeah.
I wanted you guys to get a chance to see this. This is All part of my childhood memories of running around all through this area.
We'd sit all night and fish. But by the looks of things, we had probably some good company doing it.
As we were walking in, Rachel was pointing out to me a great big tree break and another one put up around it in the form of an X. So that's where we're going to right now. Right there it is.
Yep.
You couldn't come down here in the springtime without bulletproof long johns on, because the mosquitoes were the size of pterodactyls.
Oh, yeah.
So they'd carry you off.
So there's a smaller break on this side. Here's a big X back here. Taller. I think size-wise, these folks, individuals, are about the size of what we 2Xs.
Mm-hmm.
About the size of what we have commonly worked with. Not midgets.
That there's old relics and remnants laying around from the fish camps that were down here back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and I don't know how long all of this has been abandoned down here, but it doesn't look like there's really been any kind of buildings for a long time down here now. Probably in the last 25 years.
Kind of odd to see.
And what's that look like to you?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like what's in our woods, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Over here to the left, there's another big tree break.
And the balance limb up there on top. But this pretty much runs on for miles and miles either direction through here. It's a travel corridor for a lot of these big hairy beans.
It makes a perfect corridor. There are not much by way of pines or coniferous.
You look straight through there, that looks like what we used to call the Union Jack, the X with the limb up the middle.
Mm-hmm. There's an arch or a partial.
Yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like an old abandoned deep freeze laying on its side over there from one of the fish camps.
But they could tell some stories.
You know, these guys that stayed down here all the time on the river at nighttime had to see and hear some crazy wild stuff out through here.
Definitely.
Other than the occasional boat motor or an airplane flying over, there's not any other real traffic that comes down through this.
Interesting.
But the spot we started out in was kind of open, kind of a clearing area. As you go deeper into that, it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker until you need a machete to bust your way through it.
Let's see if we can see it up there on the right. When you go up, felt like somebody was standing right. But I don't know that you can catch it from there. We'll go up a little further. It's okay.
Yeah, they can be standing right next to a tree with just their head poking around, and unless they move, it's nearly impossible to spot them.
Once in a while, when they feel confident, you'll get the shoulders, the head, the whole form. Most of the time, they lean toward peeking.
Yeah, I think that old fridge has seen better days.
You'd have to say. It does flood up through part of this, so I'm not sure about these logs, if they've just...
Yeah, a lot of years when we get the heavy rains through here, this will all be underwater over our head. Up that hill that we came down to come down into this, I've seen water, shoulder deep on me down in the bottom of that.
And then in the spring, after all of that water and this black dirt, this is some of the best morel mushroom hunting that you'll ever find from these rotten logs. And
well, I hope you enjoyed our little visit up to Illinois. Wanted to bring you guys along and let you see some of this. We might go walk around and explore a little bit more with the camera turned off, but it's just pretty much more of this as far as we care to hike.
Yeah.
Appreciate you tagging along. Remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time down the trail.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.